Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's episode of Connecting with Joy. I am your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and I am so excited that you have decided to join us. We are a monthly podcast and community area that we are dedicated to exploring the healing power of connecting with the frequency that is joy. And each month I bring in different beautiful industry experts, therapists, dreamers, coaches, healing practitioners, and the personal growth and healing and spiritual development field to really help us kind of explore and get in there and see the different areas that we can help to cultivate and strengthen that frequency of joy. Because if you are on a healing or a growth journey, and chances are if you're listening to this podcast you are, let's face it, the healing and growth journey can be a struggle, and it's not for the faint of heart if you're going to really dive in there. And, jumping in the fish shocker, Beth, on that one. Really
I felt that. Really dive in there.
Yeah, and start to work on healing. Welcome. This is Beth. You guys just got to, I'll circle back around to her just for a moment. But it can feel like that. It can feel wonky. It can come in from left field, and it can feel like blood, sweat, and tears. But there's awesome moments of joy in the weirdest, oddest places that if you have pathways open and running for that can be the fuel and the beauty and the energy that shifts things, helps break it apart and open to a grace and ease pathway. And so often, so many of my clients have been on that mountain journey, and they're in that promised land thinking, when I feel good, when I've healed this, when I feel this connection with spirit, then I will do this. And when we have that double bind set up, it just robs us of actually unleashing the universe to help them with us. So this month, I'm really excited. I have Beth Herndobler. Beth, did I get that right? I think I did.
Yes, you did.
My listeners know if you're new to the podcast, last names and I, no go. But Beth and I got it right this month. And she is going to actually talk about justice. We're going to talk about healing through the breakdown so that we can open to the breakthrough and what does that really mean and everything. I can't wait to dive in there. If you are new to Beth and you have not met her before, I am super excited to introduce you to her. She is actually a former trial attorney turned into energy healer and intuitive spiritual counselor. Beth is a master sacred geometrist and uses the creation of symbols in her healing energy practice. She is also a certified intuitive strategist, a medium, a divine channel who communicates with your higher self, spirit guides, angels, and ancestors for messages and guidance. Beth combines her guidance with a breakthrough energetic technique that identifies and clears blocks and stuck patterns so that you can open to life lived on purpose in abundance with grace and ease. Beth, this is what we're talking about, right?
That's right. This is it. That's where the juice is.
That's where it is. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited, and I really can't wait to get into this topic. And I'm curious, this topic, healing through the breakdown to open to the breakthrough, I'm assuming there's a little bit of a personal journey in this for you, that this is that transformation from trial attorney over to energy, healer and intuitive spiritual counselor. And if I had to guess, there's a little bit of a thread of what we're going to talk about today in your story. And I'm wondering, would you share some of that with us?
Absolutely. And you're so correct that there is always a thread from here to there, from where we were to where we are to where we want to go. And breakdown is always a part of that. For me, I think the breakdown that pushed and propelled, I was pushed by the divine until I was willing to let go of the pain that was pushing me so that I could be directly pulled by the divine power and support and connection that I fostered through the propelling of pain. I was pushed by pain until I was willing to choose the joy and the connection to pull me through, which is a much easier thing to do, that to be pulled into than to be pushed from behind through the mud and all of that. And I think it started in, the last 15 years, nearly 30 years I was a practicing attorney. And so you can see that the majority of the time, if the last 15 years were arduous and painful, well, probably the whole thing was, but more intensely so, that I took a long time. So don't judge yourself if you feel like it's taking a long time for you to make that shift and to hear that call, because often what we need to do to move through the breakdown of our own situation is jump off a cliff. And so I jumped off the cliff, but only after I was pushed towards it by the pain, because 15 years is a long time to be having experience after experience that's telling you this is no longer for me, and to keep trying to retrofit yourself into it. So I was a trial attorney, and that was the whole point of me wanting to be an attorney. At the age of 9 or 10, I had the flu and was able to stay up really late because the doctor said she needs to stay home for a week, and they brought in the little black and white TV, the portable TV, and I was watching a court drama, Judge for the Defense, at night, and I had wanted to be an actor. I had no idea why. I have still to this day, other than divine calling, longing, whatever, that I wanted to be an actor, because I didn't know any. I didn't know what it meant and what it took and how to do it or anything. And yet I somehow knew, which is true because my sister is an actor, that the majority of the time that actors spend is not acting, it's doing their day job. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew it, and that didn't feel good. So I saw this courtroom drama, and I thought, wow, look at that. It's only 12 people. They're in a box. They can't clap, but they can't leave. That's for me. That's how I'll make my day job and my longing come together. Well, pish posh. I mean, I should have done a little bit more research, which I did a lot. I had people I babysat for that were courtroom attorneys that I went to court with them, trial attorneys, and went to court with them. Did a lot of research that way. Never, ever took a moment to assess what my day would be like, because in my first year of law school, when I said to a friend of mine who was also, a fellow student, I'm not going to wear those goofy suits and those crazy ties. That was when women were wearing kind of bolero sort of ties in the 80s. And she said, exactly, what do you think you're going to wear? And it all just kind of washed over me. I've made a mistake here. I did not consider what this was going to feel like every day to do. And it was in that moment I realized most of my time was going to be in an office. And yes, indeed, I was going to be wearing those suits and those crazy ties. And I was crushed in that moment. I really was crushed. But I was afraid. Now, bear in mind, everyone who's listening, I went forward, and it was not the wrong thing. Because in every kind of chart, astrological, numerological, human design, my own sense, my own guidance, I was meant to be a lawyer. It was part of my journey. And it had to do, which is a recent knowing, so remember, everyone who's listening, that none of it is one and done. So I'm already doing this other woo-woo work and have been for many years now. It's been 10 years since I practiced law, and I'm still discovering what it meant and why I did it. And one of the reasons I did it was to learn about power and how to use it without abusing it, because in past lives I have, as we all have, been everything. I have abused power that I held, and I was very clear that I did not want to do that. That's a lot of the reason why I became a lawyer, and I just discovered that in the past couple of years. So the journey is ever unfolding, but when the day came that I woke up, because part of being a lawyer, at least in the areas I practiced in trial law and criminal and complex tort litigation, these are all very stressful areas, and there's a good bit of drinking that goes on as a way of out-processing the stress, and that's the way lawyers tend to come together and build camaraderie is through drinking. And I had really embodied that. I was very expert at that aspect of practicing law. And as I became more and more miserable, I started drinking more and more. And I gained a lot of weight. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't taking care. I was just depressed and unhappy and pretty much ready to kind of give up. Like, if this is how life is, if this is what that is what I was doing. I was giving up. And then one day, a weekday, I was out for happy hour with people from work and went home and made myself a pitcher of Cosmopolitans. If you don't drink, that's a kind of a fruity version of a martini. It's not as strong as a martini because it has some juice, a lot of juice in it. But I had made a pitcher. It was on the table. The TV was on. My grandsons, who were 2.5, 2 at the time, they lived in California, I in Chicago. I kissed their pictures good night every night. They were there on the coffee table, and I passed out in my clothes and with tears. I sobbed myself to sleep, passed out, woke up in the morning, TV still on, half-filled pitcher still there, everything's still there, and I am aware that I have to get up and get ready to go to work and do it all over again. And I can feel the dried tears on my face, and I can feel the depression, and I heard a voice as clearly as mine is speaking now that said, "You will not survive if you continue to live like this." And that was the last push that I needed to get me right to the tip. If you can imagine someone getting ready to dive into a pool and how they get very close to the edge of the board before they dive. That's where I was. And from there, I set about, I had a plan, because I always had a plan. And I still hadn't realized that 9, 10-year-old plan I had that was born of the flu wasn't exactly the right, best, highest purpose plan. Even if it had a purpose and a meaning in my life, I still was functioning from that left brain, mental, masculine, egoic way that's how you solve all these problems. And gradually, in the next several months until I moved out to California, all the plans were laid waste. Everything I thought was going to happen didn't happen. None of it was really coming to fruition in that way. And I, in looking back, realized that was more of the breakdown, is you have to break down the systems that are supporting the life that's not working, as well as, it's like in 12-step programs, in AA or Codependence Anonymous or any of the 12-step programs, they all teach that there's no geographic cure. So without that fine-tuning and breakdown of the systems that I was using to prop up and support the life that wasn't working, moving here to California wouldn't have done what it needed to do. If things had been easy and smooth, I wouldn't have done the work to assess, to address, to dig into the pain and to move through it, to release it and let it go, so that I could move into a higher expression of myself standing in the truth and light of me. If it had been easy, I would have come out here and gotten some regular job. I thought I was going to be a personal assistant. That could have easily happened. And then I would have been down that track, into that rabbit hole, instead of coming out from under the earth and embracing the sky and the heavens and bringing it in to my very being to create a joyful life that is full of love and light. So it had to be hard and ugly, because then I came out here and started taking care. Go ahead.
I was going to say, can I pause you right there? Because I think that's the piece, what you just said, like, okay, so you had that push, right, that you had that aha moment of, like, I'm not going to live if I keep doing what I'm doing. And you had already had some shot across the bow warning signs, it sounds like, and then you made that choice, but in that moment, what also booted up in your system was a whole bunch of other choices to break down the whole thing that was creating the imbalance in it. And I think that's super important, because then people, we really think, once I make this choice and I decide, okay, I don't want this, I'm going to move and I'm going to do this and I'm going to they think the sky should open and fall, and then we beat ourselves up when that doesn't happen, right? But there's a whole process of dismantling of the law of chaos that's got to come in.
That's right, and that's where we have to trust. We beat ourselves up so much thinking, I can't do this. I don't know how to do that. I don't know enough. It's too late. All the things, all the limiting ideas and beliefs and stories the miscreated stories that we tell ourselves. And if instead we surrender and trust that there's a purpose and a reason and get, as a friend of mine said, the blessing in the lesson, in the challenge. If we get the blessings, then we don't have to continue having those painful lessons because we are more aligned with what we're here to do, because we are each here at this time to participate in the breakdown and in the breakthrough. No one is here at this moment by accident. This whole course that we're on as a planet, this planetary shift to the new earth and to all the new light being crystallized in the earth and into each and every one of us, it's been in the plannings of the company of heaven, if you will, of the divine of the universe for eons, for hundreds and thousands of years. So that we all raised our hand and said, I'll go. Don't think for a minute that you didn't sign up for everything that's happening, because you did. That doesn't mean anything is your fault. There is no blame here. There is only awareness. Well, why am I having this struggle? What is it trying to teach me? What do I need to get out of this? So I could have stayed. I'm out of being a lawyer for 10 years. I could have stayed with I got out, but instead I'm still being called back to deeper exploration of what the point of and the purpose of that was for me, hence the knowing within the past year to two that part of why I became a lawyer was to understand my relationship to power. And I definitely was doing that the whole time I was practicing law, but I didn't have the consciousness of the point of it that I do now. So if we can all take a breath and relax into, instead of judging the course of our lives, what we consider to be our mistakes, wrong decisions, which way, if I'd gone this way instead of that way, well, yes, it would be different if you'd made that choice instead of this choice, and yet you made this choice. So now what are you going to do with it? And how we move through that with grace and gratitude determines whether it's an elegant move from our choice or whether it's a painful one where you're getting pushed forward into the mud, the muck, and even off the cliff. Now, I jumped off the cliff. I did that on my own. But many times before that, I did not. I've been fired, and every time I was fired, it was after I knew it was time to go, and I didn't go. There's times you hear people tell stories about relationships that fail where they end up being the one who gets left, even though they knew that they needed to let that relationship go, but they couldn't do it. One way or another, the universe is going to get you to learn what you came here to learn, but are you going to go the hard way or the easy way? And I used to go somewhere in between, but a lot of hard, and now I choose the easy way. I don't need hard lessons anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty, is once you start to know that things are going to be, like right now we are in one of those breakdown eras. I mean, it's just what's happening. So that the systems, like you said, like even if you had picked up from Chicago and gone to California and had booted up the personal assistants, you would have booted up the exact same stressful everything thing, but why you were felt the need to boot that up, that's what you had to take on, right? And that's what had to get dismantled. And that's what then probably, if I had to guess, and you can share maybe a little bit more, probably touched every aspect of your life. There probably wasn't sacred ground at that point, because the whole system needs to reshuffle and reorganize so that it could open to that beauty, that the true power of you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the key features was that in addition to what you highlighted, which is absolutely true, that I would have changed one stressful situation for another where I'm still working for someone else and not able to determine the course of my day. And I am not saying everyone needs to work for themselves, but for me, that's a key feature. Independence and daily autonomy has been a key feature of what I've always needed and how I didn't thrive in a work setting that didn't give me that, which makes sense because if you're not able to determine what you need to do today because your boss is telling you to do this, not that, when in fact you know that that is more important, you're not in flow. And that has nothing to do with working for someone else. It has to do with the situation. So for me, being in this situation I'm in now where I do have daily autonomy and can allow my days more or less to flow and evolve and unfold and open, I didn't have that working for someone else. And that's what I would have stepped into when if I would have gotten a personal assistant job. Now, the flip side of that is that caused an inordinate amount of fear when I first started doing this work because there was no certainty. There was no paycheck. There was no assuredness that I could even do this. And yet I had created a spiritual practice and a dynamic relationship with Source, with Mother, Father, God, with all that is, that I could trust that what I was being called to do would be supported by the divine because I was being called to do it. I wasn't deciding in my brain that because I saw a show on TV about trial lawyers that that's where I was supposed to go. Instead, I gave it all up. I melded into the breakdown, and in that way, in that gap of not knowing and of searching for how this was going to work out and continuously getting the answer, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. And I got that answer internally and externally as well. My sister-in-law, who's a napropath, kind of like massage chiropractic combined, she had been treating me since we both graduated, she from naprapathic school and me from law school at the same time, and she was treating me for about 4 or 5 years before then, so early 80s. And she was the first one in my family that I told that I was going to move, and I was the fixer. I was the glue in my family. I was the one that was keeping everything together. So it was a real big shift for my family as well when I left, and that was part of my anxiety about telling everybody that I was leaving, was that I knew it was going to be a big rupture. And she said, and it would be a big rupture for her because she and I were friends before she married my brother, and I saw her every week, and we went out all the time. And now I'm telling her I'm going to move 3,000 miles away. And she said, you have to do it. You're the only one of my patients who never gets better. Never. And so all of that to say, when you lean into the gap and surrender into it and open to trusting the divine call instead of waiting for that knock in the head that comes from behind from the pain, it's going to be hard. Nobody said it was going to, like you said, be, in the sky's part. I mean, that happens. That does happen to me. I was thinking just yesterday about how on a drive home from a silent meditation retreat where you couldn't talk for 5 days that I was coming home from even further Southern California than where I am, and I turned and looked, and the sky literally parted, and it was God coming through. Right when there was traffic for no reason, so everything slowed down so I could turn and look and observe this, and I could feel God, Source, whatever your word is for that universal source energy coming down through me. That's the difference of when you get to the point of letting the divine pull you instead of the pain push you. You will have more of those moments that will affirm that you're on the right track in what you're doing, but it requires surrender and trust. You can't make a list and do it your way and achieve that. It's not going to work because that's not the union. That's not what flow is. That's not how energy works. Yeah,
and I think that that's a beautiful point. Like, it's not this linear, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. There's not a protocol, right? There's not like, okay, I've heard the call. I'm willing to say yes now. Universe, you can release the pressure.
Right.
Well, I'm saying yes. And then you're like, why is there still pressure? Why is there moments of awe and then moments of feeling like you are just getting pummeled by the winds of chaos and change, and everything in between? And what I loved about when you were talking about that meditation, you could have drove, if you hadn't had those pathways, if you haven't developed that presence to be open to the divine, or source, whatever works for you, you might have missed that moment, that beautiful moment that was set up just for you.
Yes. If I was focused on something else other than being present in that moment and bringing the energy of that silent retreat with me, I would not have turned my head to the left and seen what I saw. Similarly, the weekend before last, I was in Chicago. My niece got married, and it's the first time in almost 2 years that I had been in Chicago because of the pandemic. So I hadn't seen my relatives and my 86-year-old mom in all that time. And it was rather arduous because the weather was inordinately awful. It was in the high 90s with lots of humidity. It was like being smacked in the face every time you stepped outside. And her wedding was right by Lake Michigan in a venue that didn't have air conditioning. And she asked me if I could be her point person the day of because she didn't have a wedding planner, and I used to do that sort of thing on the side. And I didn't really ask a lot of questions because she said, it'd just be, putting out the signs, guiding people to where to go and, answering any questions. And I knew better, but I didn't want to know. So I didn't ask. I didn't follow up with the phone call that she never made to me. We had talked, and then she said, I'll call you in a couple of weeks, and she didn't call. And so that same sister-in-law features in this recent story of surrender and noticing being present and noticing despite what's going on around you. That same sister-in-law, I was telling her just 4 days before I flew to Chicago that I hadn't heard from her, and I hoped that she had no longer of any need of me because it's a lot of work if you're really being the event coordinator the day of. And my sister-in-law jumped in and said, "Oh no, don't even think that," because she was raving about how her Aunt Beth was going to be taking care of everything on the day of her wedding, and she didn't know what she'd do without her, and it was kind of a womp womp. So I get in this situation, and it all unfolds 12:30 on Friday. By the way, I think you should be at the rehearsal. Can you be here at 5? So the whole weekend just turned into this work event instead of this restful, joyous, I'm at a wedding event. And I had to enlist one of my 13-year-old grandsons to come with to help with the setup because I couldn't do it all myself, and he didn't want to. And yet it was a very powerful and expansive spiritual experience for us because he broke through some stuff. He needed to go help someone else unload some of the things that were needed for the setup, and he's like, I'm shy, I can't do that. I said, buddy, you're working right now. Nobody wants to talk to you. You're not socializing. You're not shy. You're a worker. You can do this. And I saw him draw himself up, and he looked at me and he said, thank you for that reframing. And he went out, and I mean, so the whole day was full of that, and yet it was still, I was exhausted. I'm sweating. I know I don't look cute because how can you look cute when you're working in 97 degrees and you're sweating and couldn't put any makeup on and the whole thing. And then finally, after this huge wedding party gets from the venue down through the grass, out by the rocks, by the water, the service is going on, and I look up, and there's a heart that opens in the center of the clouds. And I was able to grab my phone and get that picture of that heart so I could capture that blessing of this union from the divine. That's what you get when you stay present with joy and gratitude and love in the moment and get out of your head about how you're going to fix this or how you're going to solve this or what needs to be done or who's not doing what. And the other aspect of this is support. For me, that's always been, I'm the one who's supporting everyone else. So you would think that in that story I just told of the wedding, yeah, in a sense, it was playing out. You're still being called back to that same old position you've always held, of you being the one who's giving support and not necessarily getting the support you need. But how I view things, that word reframing that my grandson used is key, because though I had to talk him into coming with me and being the one, he has a twin brother, but I said, it's not going to work with him. It has to be you. You're my ride or die. What does that mean, ride or die? I said, we're there for each other no matter what. And he said, yeah, that's true. I'll be your ride or die. I'll show up. Do you know that little boy? Well, he's not so little. He's taller than me now. But that little boy brought a washcloth from the place where he was staying because he said, I know you didn't have your bandana that you, when you're doing work that makes you sweat, you said you didn't bring your bandana because you didn't realize that it was going to be so hot. So I brought this. And every now and again, I would hear him, he calls me Gigi. He'd say, Gigi. I'd turn around and he'd say, stop. And I'd stand still because, you can get frantic when you're trying to get things set up and you're on a timeline and you weren't participating in the arrangements. So you don't fully know exactly, every time I opened a box, I didn't know what was going to come out of that box and where it needed to go or how much work setup was involved. But he would stop me periodically and dab my face with that washcloth. And, to him, he thought, I'm just getting the sweat off her face because I know it irritates her eyes when sweat, whatever he thought. But the truth is, he was God's messenger bringing me back into the present moment every time he made me stop the linear push through so that I could take a breath while he's dabbing my face so that later I could see the heart in the clouds and feel the joy and the love and the commitment that was being honored and that we all came to bear witness to. That's where I chose to put my focus, not on, my bejesus, I have to do this for my niece. I don't want to do this. I want to be a guest for one freaking time. Every time somebody gets married in my family, it's work for me. I don't want that anymore. And yet what I learned from this situation is I made it work. As much as they were asking me to help work their wedding, I made it work. This time, I chose joy. Now, does that mean every moment I was joyful? Absolutely not. When I got her text saying, hey, maybe you can come to the rehearsal, I was like, just smack me now and lay me down. I am done. I was going to be hanging by the pool this afternoon, and now I've got to go work. But I shifted. And that's what the breakdown calls us to. You have to keep being present and shifting and being present and shifting. Nothing is static in this life. Energy is not linear. It's flowing. You got to pick the flow you want to be in, get in it, and then ride it through. That's what will get you through to the breakthrough with greater elegance and ease.
Mm-hmm. I love that whole story and all the metaphors that are in that, because it's so beautiful that, yes, like you said, yes, you were in a role, and yes, you stepped back into it, but you could have gone through that role and brought in the energy of like, rump, 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 and even your grandson could have brought that in. And instead, it was, like you said, that beautiful refrain of, yes, there were moments of rump, rump, and there were also these beautiful moments of joyful service is what I call it. Like when we are called into an act of service, can we bring joy into that? Can we find the hearts and the blessings and be present in that, that beautiful mindfulness, so that we can be searching for them? Because I had a wonderful spiritual director who told me one time that really I was in one of those, this breakdown is not okay.
Yes,
having one of these moments, and she very kindly listened, and she said, Michelle, like, I want to bring you back to that that Christ energy, and what does that, and I just kind of sat there, and I didn't want to go through the door that she was giving me because I knew what was going to happen. I would have to let go of all my front.
Yeah, we don't always want to, do we?
And then, when I was like, nothing is spared, and yet everything, because there is free will. There are a lot of moving parts that we don't get to see and we don't understand. And if we saw it, we would go cray-cray. It's not ours to be in that, and that beautiful wonder energy is important. But right with anything that feels, quote, difficult or painful or suffering, that there is always grace alongside it, and that's right. Always promised. And can we start to align, just like you did, with the grace that's there and do a scavenger hunt with it, find it, because it's there, and hold on to it, right?
That's right. And when we do allow the grace in and we move into flow, the universe will support us, because who else showed up to help with the setup? My stepfather and his wife. My stepfather is an outdoorsman, fisherman, and the grandson, Oliver, that was with me, cannot get enough time with him because he also is an avid fisherman. And while his mother, my daughter, learned to fish from her grandfather, he's not doing it the way, he goes to the Boundary Waters, he goes to Montana. He's doing what Oliver wants to do. And that's who showed up early to help with the setup, so that at one point I said, here are the stands and here are the table numbers, here's the map, you two go sort this. And I was just like, this is the next project that these two can do. And at a point I turned and looked and saw them talking, and as I am right now, I got full body chills, because that was source of rewarding Oliver for his willingness to serve, to do something he did not want to do. He didn't want to do that. And because he was willing to set that aside and step in and serve where he was being called to serve, he was rewarded by having this private time that he would not have otherwise had with his great-grandfather, so that they could talk about whatever they were talking about, but I guarantee you it was fishing. Mm-hmm. And they made plans, and it's already unfolding that they're booking a trip to the Boundary Waters. It's very complicated because he's Chicago, they're out here, the Boundary Waters, northern Minnesota. So, there's a lot of and my stepfather's older now. So the fact that they had that time cemented everything in is going to make next summer's journey possible. That's what happens when you are willing to step into the grace frequency and flow. Things come to you that he's been trying to make this happen. Oliver's been trying to make this happen for 2 years since their last fishing trip. And now it's all in motion because of that time they had together setting up the tables.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So
and we didn't know they were coming early. We did not know. They're just that kind of people that they said, we knew you were having to do this, so we came early because we figured you could use a couple of hands. There's my grace.
There's your grace. And it's there. It's always there. The question I feel coming in from the field is like, okay, ladies, this is great for you guys because you're in the flow. You guys talk to angels, you're mediums, you're, blah, blah, blah. But I want to explore how did you get this way? How did you start to open to that? Because I think that's a lot of, I think when people get to this breakdown point and they're willing to start to cultivate this connection to spirit, this connection to Mother Earth, and to allowing support and this groundedness to come in so that they can open to that mindful state, right, of seeing beyond just the mundane earth thing. That piece, people feel the draw of the divine and of the universe and of spirit calling to them, their own personal power bubbling up within them. But is there any advice or through your own story that can come forward of how did you go from, because trial lawyer, that's pretty, left brain, analytical, to this being willing to find the divine and the grace and to have this connection as your anchor?
So
is that a really big question? I know,
the
sorry.
thing is, it's all there already, right? You came here, if you want to think of it this way, metaphorically, before you choose to incarnate in this life, you have a meeting with your council, and you're sitting at this big conference table, and there's a screen going that's reviewing all your past life lessons and the things you set out to learn and what you did learn, the things you can check off that list, which I used to love checking. I still do actually get great satisfaction checking things off my to-do list, but it doesn't have the same attachment as it used to. But you're in this room with your divine team, and you're saying, all right, you're going to go back down, so what is it you want to, look, you kind of missed that over there. We're going to carry that over. You got to get that piece again. Oh, you got all that. All right, so what else? Oh, you want to add this and this and this. So you add all these things to your list of what you're coming here to do, and then you come down here and you've promptly forgotten everything that you agreed. So it's a series of unfoldings of remembering that this is what you're called to do. All I ever wanted to do was help people and to serve. It was my left brain, although there, as I said, were other reasons in that I was meant to be a lawyer, and yet it was my left brain and my fear that was propelling me into that career in those early days, and without any deeper inquiry, because if I were to do it all over again, my current way of how do you want, and this applies if you're trying to shift from your current job or career, or you're just beginning a job or a career, or you're trying to decide what is the next course, what's your third act. If you're older like I was 53 when I made this move. But the point is, what is it that you came here to do that you haven't done yet? And if you begin to allow yourself to come into the knowing of that, then you're going to have a much easier time of seeing what your next move is. So for me, once I came, I went through the arduousness of I can't do this anymore. I've tried to find a job in the practice of law that will serve. None of it works. I've got to get out of here. I always told my kids we're going to live in California. They both live in California, as do my grandsons, and here I am, still living in Chicago. I've got to get out of here. And then from there, it was a series of rememberings that I want to serve, I want to help, so that as I moved through developing a deep and dedicated daily spiritual practice, which is essential. You can't we need to choose, and we need to choose higher mindfully every day what we're going to do to direct our course, and yet you can't do that in isolation. You need to have a full-blown practice that you do every day to connect yourself with Source, with the divine, with Mother Nature, with yourself, with your higher self. And so as you're experiencing, in whatever way you are, the discomfort that where you are isn't working, and you need to move through this breakdown so that you can get to the other side of the of all things flowing, you're going to have to be willing to feel the pain and to move through the muck, because you otherwise will keep carrying it with you. So when people say or hear, oh, it's great for you too, you're in flow, and look, I've rebooted 3 times today already, and where I am, it is 1:24 in the afternoon right now. So that's not even half the day over, and I've had to completely reboot myself 3 times, and I never left my house. So it's not external out there, though that always affects us. Energy is everywhere. It's not like you're safe by hiding in your house. I don't mean that. I'm simply saying I haven't been out in the world to be impacted by other people's energy and fields and all the stuff that's going on. And still 3 times I had to stop and go into a quick meditation to a centering, bringing in the energy, connecting, put a smile on my face, to just, honestly, Michelle, I thought, maybe I need to cancel this today. Mm-hmm. That's where I was today. So don't think that because we're talking about this side of things that we don't feel the other. As long as you're in human form, you're going to always have those low, tough, challenging moments. the idea is to develop a foundation through your spiritual practice, getting the support and the help that you need to move you through the pain and the trauma that's stored and trapped in your body and elsewhere in, whether it's your mental, physical, emotional, or energetic body, and to deal with the challenges. There are a lot of challenges happening on the planet right now. Everything is breaking down, and it took eons for this to build up. It is not going to break down in a heartbeat. This is going to go on for a while. There are breakthroughs coming. Things are shifting. Things are changing. And it then becomes your choice. Which are you going to tap into? Are you going to tap into and be the change, standing in your truth and light, so that you can fulfill what you came here to do, which in some overly broad measure is be the light? Because that's what's happening now. The planet is being converted from dense, that's a new word, negative dense, from density into light. And all of us who chose to come here to bring and be the harbingers of light, we have to stand even more firmly now, spreading and sharing that light that we are out through the world to help create the breakthrough. You cannot do that if you're turning away from your light. So that's the first place to start, is to begin acknowledging I am an infinitely magnificent, divine, sovereign being of love, light, and service. And you can shorten that to I am amazing. And start right now. I challenge everyone to take the next 30 days, and every morning when you first look into the mirror in the bathroom to brush your teeth, I want you to look at your eyes soul to soul and say, I am amazing. And if you do that for 30 days, you're going to start believing it, because you'll have broken the habit that is whatever those limiting ideas that you're holding about yourself. I can't do it. She's got this. She had that. If I had her circumstances, or I had her gifts, people used to tell me that I was in training with, well, you get these chills, you get these tingles in your crown. If I got that, then I could be able to do something too, but I just never know. And I'm like, I've been getting chills all my life, but I wasn't always listening. I wasn't always trusting. I was just thinking, like, oh, that's so cool. I got some chills. And then when I became invested in a spiritual practice, it turned into, oh, that's a sign. And I received it that way. But what is your sign that you're not receiving? Because I don't always get them anymore. Since I started paying attention, a lot of what I bring forth, what I channel, the divine intuition that I bring through in sessions with people is a whole different level now. I don't have the external signs that I used to get. I have to trust. It's a lot faster. It's a lot easier. I don't have to interpret anything quite the same way, but I have to trust at very deeper levels. And that surrender and trust is huge into moving from where you are to where you are meant to be, where you want to go, where your dreams are calling you. So don't look at me and Michelle like we got it all going on, because everything that we're talking about, we're doing, well, theoretically, right, Michelle, we're doing it every day, but there are some days where not much of it's happening. There are some lost days that are just, this day stinks.
I like to call it, I'm a recovering perfectionist. It's been 4 days since my last perfectionist moment. But, it's go for your personal best, because there are days where your personal best is just acknowledging that you just got to keep resetting, and that's knocking it out of the park. And so it's really, I think, bringing in, I love that, I am awesome. Bringing that I have awe within me. The wonder of the universe is within me. And once you start to harness that, then that's the juice that starts to then give you the grace and the curiosity, and then the kind of, in those moments, some days, you're just doing good to put one foot in front of the other, and that's okay, because this is not like a one and done. Okay, I'm going to have my breakdown at 5:55 on Thursday next week, and then I'm going to have my breakthrough on Friday morning when I wake up. Okay, it's all going to be different. I so wish it worked that way.
And, sometimes without the scheduling, sometimes the breakdown is more graceful than others. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, isn't this perfect? It fit right in, and it was a day that I didn't have a lot scheduled, and, oh, that was great. But the next time is going to be when you're maximally scheduled and have to call the whole thing off because you can't do it. The thing is, a lot of times when we can't do anything other than just be in the day, that's when we're rebooting. We need to be kinder to ourselves. If your loved one, your friend, was sick, would you tell them, you need to go ahead and do everything on your to-do list. You better get up and go to work. You're a loser. You're a slacker, and all you ever want to do is lay down. Would you tell that to someone you love who's sick? No, but how often do we beat ourselves up when maybe we're not full-on sick, but what we really need is a mini retreat that we create for ourselves, whether it's an afternoon, a whole day, a weekend, whatever. You have to be kind to yourself in order for this to work, because you have to be willing to let go of the judgment. No attachment, no expectation, and no judgment. And as applied to yourself, you see, the people that are feeling that, oh, you guys got it, but I don't have it like that, you're judging yourself. Oh, yes, you do have it like that. And I challenge you right here, right now, to shift and reframe. Where is it that you are not acknowledging your own awesomeness? I have a client who's been in, I have a series of 4 levels of masterclass that if you do the whole thing, it takes they're each 6-month parts, 4 levels, so it takes over 2 years to do the whole thing. She's in the 4th level. She's about to graduate, and she sent me this email, and it was emergency, desperate need of help. And then I let it sit just for about 24 hours because it was so negative and so full of judgment of herself that I couldn't even see where is the answer here. And then I got up early today and meditated and opened up the email and was guided to cut and paste just the parts. There were, 3 or 4 paragraphs, and there were 5 or 6 lines that were just horrible. I am so disappointed in myself. I am not getting anything right. And when you pull all that out from the rest of it, now, true, she feels that way, right? But when you run with that, when you choose to run with that judgment of yourself, and then you put it on paper and send it out into the internet, into the ethers, you are telling all the frequencies, all the low frequencies of I'm no good, I'm terrible, I can't get this right, I am so disappointed in myself, I haven't made any progress, blah, blah, blah. That's what you're plugging into. And so I said, here's one example how you can shift that, now rewrite the rest. And within a couple of hours, despite great time change differences, she had responded and said, I did not see it until you pointed that out to me. Now, one thing I teach is be mindful of what you're saying to yourself and to others. That's that original, what you said, the throat chakra, something's happening in the 5th chakra. Yeah, something is often happening there because we shy away. I was okay in the beginning of doing this work to be an angel card reader, but then I wasn't going to be an energy healer. And here, 5 years later, most of my work is energy work and teaching. I said I'm never going to teach, and I'm not going to be that weirdo energy healer. Now, why is it weird and woo-woo to be an energy healer, but it's not weird and woo-woo to do angel readings? I mean, come on, that doesn't even make sense. But in the moment, that's where I was. That was as far as I could go to start. I could not embrace the whole of it. There was no way. And yet now I hardly ever do readings. Most of what I do is energy work. I had to come here bit by bit and allow myself to move through it. So if you can't make the shift all at once, don't not make a step because you can't see where it's going. Take one step. What can you do from where you are right now with what you have available to you to move your life forward into the truth and light of you? That is what is yours to do today, not to get from here to the end. I'm not at the end. We're never done until we leave. And even then, we're not done. It's just we're done with this body, with this cloak that we house ourselves in. So stop judging yourself, stop attaching to whatever lowness or your idea of what it takes, and stop expecting that it has to be this way or that way in order for it to happen, and just come into the moment, the present moment, where all the answers are. And that's how you can get into a flow where your life is moving with ease and grace, and you can have what Michelle and I have, or at least what we have on our best days.
And it's always there for us on the days that we're like, where is it? I know you're here somewhere.
That's right.
It's there.
And, you know, some days you just need to take that day off. And what I've had to do, because I have always, I mean, come on, I had my first daughter when I was 18. I was a freshman at the University of Chicago. I had skipped my senior year of high school because I was such a good student, and that wasn't why I skipped it. I skipped it because all my friends were seniors, and I hated high school, and I came home crying one day and told my mother, I can't go back to this high school next year. I don't have any friends. And she said, well, you don't have to. Again, the signs, the signals, the grace comes through when you're ready. If I hadn't come home crying and complaining that all my friends are graduating, I can't do this, she would have never said, well, there are early entrance programs where you don't have to do your senior year. So technically, I don't have a high school diploma because I was supposed to send my transcripts back, and I thought, what difference does it make? I'm already in college. But anyway, I'm at this prestigious university, and I'm this, smart kid, and I get pregnant. And I didn't stop. Now, there's nothing right or wrong with that. There is, however, a personality aspect of pushing through. I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to make it a little bit harder. This is what my plan is. I'm going to be a trial lawyer. I'm still going to do that. And so you have to be willing to let go of that too, that part of you that pushes through what is happening, because surrender and pushing through, while they may at times appear to be similar, are absolutely diametrically, they're polar opposites. Pushing through and making things happen is not surrendering into what is and can be, and trusting and allowing. And yet, either way, when successful, can bring you the appearance of flow and the appearance or the reality of abundance, but you're going to work a lot harder if you're making it happen than if you're tapping into the divine flow that's going to support you. In other words, the one is swimming against the current and the other is flowing with it. I'd rather flow with the current than fight against it.
Yeah.
And if your life isn't working out for you right now and it's really hard, examine, are you swimming against the current? Where can you surrender into what the divine calling is for you, what more is possible for you to be, do, have, and create in this life? And then let that be where you turn your attention, and let that be what you choose. The other way people make it hard is they consciously choose not to. My mom she doesn't do it anymore. I say she's a lapsed energy healer because she's way too focused on the negative in the world, and she laughs. I was afraid one time because I say that often in these shows, and I thought, wow, if my mom ever listens to this, I think that she'll be really offended, so I better tell her. And I did tell her, and she laughed and said, oh, yep, that's me. I'm a lapsed energy healer. And so she was able to own the truth of it. And yet I was introduced to all of that and all those concepts in my teen years. And then she was studying energy healing when I was in law school. And we were discussing meditation last night. And we were talking about how people get introduced to it and don't stick with it and judge it as not something they want to do. And the conversation led round to a person that was a friend of hers and a person who was a friend of mine, both of whom engaged in courses of meditation, and the other was doing that and other stuff to open spiritually, and then both stopped. They chose to stop. My mother's friend said, I could see it taking me down a path I didn't think I was ready to explore. The other one said, if I continue, she was also going through a divorce. We worked together back when we were prosecutors together. And she said, if I continue this, I'm not going to be able to do this job anymore, and I know I can't count on the children's father to provide a living, and I don't know what else I would do, so I'm just going to have to do this. And, she just retired from the practice of law last year. So what choice she made, and what did she give up on because she decided that the only way she could provide, and I say that in quotes because, providing for your children isn't simply putting food on the table and a roof over their heads. It's inspiring them and fostering them, shepherding them into opening into their own truth and light. And if you're not doing that yourself, they're probably not being provided that opportunity. And she most certainly made the choice not to pursue her spiritual path and the therapy even that she was in to deal with her pain and her trauma and her failed marriage, because she saw it taking her in a direction that made her uncomfortable, because she might have to let loose some of the trappings of her life. So everybody who's listening, just take a breath in right now. If you find yourself in a marriage, in a relationship, in a family, in a job, in a community construct that isn't serving you, and you think there's nothing better for you that will work, I want you to exhale that lie out. So breathe in and let go the lie, there's nothing better for me. One more time. Breathe in. Let go that miscreated lie, I am stuck here. And now, last breath in, on the exhale, just let go of everything that isn't right here, right now, the awesomeness and perfection of you as a divine, sovereign being of love, light, and service. Receive that beneficial benediction from the divine right now. Feel the heart light opening, and allow yourself to surrender into the truly magnificent being that you are. And so on that note, if it's all right with you, Michelle, I think it's a perfect time to move into the process that I have been called to do today. Is that all right?
I think this is absolutely perfect time. And I will mute myself to make the recording nice and clear for you, and I'll come back when you invite me back in. How's that sound?
Oh, all right. So this is an activation to connect with the power of the sacred 8 infinity symbol. So we're going to just spend a few minutes here to reset and reboot in alignment with the sacred 8 infinity geometric symbol. So take a deep, easy breath in, letting go of everything that isn't right here, right now, and bring your attention to your heart space, imagining that you are standing within your heart. And from the center of your heart, you're going to send a diamond white light up through your throat, through your third eye, and out your crown. Send it to the furthest reaches of the galaxy, where you will see, sense, feel, or just imagine there's a divine star point with your name on it. You're going to lasso your star and wrap your light around it 3 times so that you're securely connected to the heavenly divinity that is the truth and light of you. Breathe that in. And now run that heavenly energy down your white light. Bring it all back down. Feel it enter your crown and flow it back to your heart space. Return your attention to the center point of your heart and imagine extending a gold grounding cord about as wide as your body, down through your torso, out, down your legs, and out the soles of your feet, sending it into the center, the heart of Mother Earth, the golden grace light ball flowing at the heart of Mother Earth. Lock your golden light into it and allow that golden grace light, that nourishing, supportive, sustaining, grounding energy of Mother, to flow up your cord all the way back to your heart, feeling into that center point of your heart where you are connected as above, so below, as within, so without. And now turn your attention to the horizontal side channels of your heart space. So from about your armpit to the bottom of your rib cage, imagine you can open those channels and release out from the center of your heart space that beautiful emerald green energy of the heart, and let it extend infinitely left and right, bringing you into a conjoined vertical and horizontal state of synchronized stability. Take a nice, easy breath into that. And now return your attention once again to your heart space, the very center of your heart. There's a 0 set point. You can think of it as a power button. You're going to activate that set point, and it unleashes the new consciousness grid out from the whole of you. So envision an infinitely expanding sphere of grid lines flowing out and out and out. This is you connected as one with all that is, with the new consciousness grid. Infuse those grid lines with gold, with the violet healing flame, and with the emerald green of the heart, letting all that infuse and flow in, through, and as you. Return your attention to your heart space and look deeper within your heart. There's a portal in the back of your heart, the tiny space of the heart. You're going to pass through that portal to the other side into the infinite field of all that is, the quantum. You'll find yourself in a beautiful meadow. Just take stock of all the animals and birds, the trees and flowers, the beach in the distance, the waterfall, the mountains, the sounds, the smells. Make use of your 5 senses as you move into the quantum. Allow your experience to unfold around you as you notice that in the center of the meadow there's a white circular clearing. Walk over to that meadow, to that center meadow, onto that white clearing, and allow, as you stand in the center of that clearing, the white energy radiating from underneath your feet to flow in, through, and as you, aligning you with the high vibrational frequencies of this infinite field of the quantum. Notice before you is Archangel Michael, Divine Mother, and Raphael, the Archangel charged with healing. Together, they are holding a chain link of sacred 8 loops. Allow yourself to see, sense, feel, or imagine this chain link of sacred 8 loops in whatever way it's coming through for you, as Mother, Michael, and Raphael walk forward and begin feeding this sacred 8 link in through your crown. It goes all the way down to your root, fitting perfectly inside of you, flowing from your root to your crown. It begins to rotate in a clockwise motion to the right. Take a deep breath in as you feel into the culling out of the density, the judgment, the shame, the blame, the negativity, the limiting ideas, beliefs, miscreated stories of the patriarchal system, of your family structure, any religions that you participated in as a child that did not serve you standing in the divine truth and light of you. All of this and more, the pain, the trauma, is being magnetized out of all of your bodies, mental, physical, emotional, and energetic, and into this Sacred 8 Infinity link. Keep breathing as you allow this Sacred 8 healing link to do its work of magnetizing out of you all that does not serve you, standing with grace, ease, elegance, glow, and flow in the truth and light of you. As the link begins becoming saturated and your bodies communicate with it that this is enough for now, the link begins to move out and down from your root chakra, out and down into that white luminosity of the circle until it is fully absorbed into that circular clearing. Take a deep cleansing breath to just feel into and allow your nervous system to reset, cleared as it is of the debris, of the duality, of the shadow, of the separation that keeps you from flowing in your truth and light. And now Raphael comes forward with a beautiful vessel of purple and white light flecked with pink. It is the perfect balance of masculine, feminine, and divine energies, and he pours this vessel into your crown. Feel it resetting the neural pathways in your brain to flow at the highest level of light and love possible for you in this now moment. It then cascades down through the whole of you, resetting all of your bodies, and especially your physical body, to flow in the frequency of you as a divine sovereign being of love, light, and service, openly, willingly choosing what more is possible for you in alliance with the divine missions you set forth to achieve in this incarnation. Allow that divine elixir to integrate in, through, and as the whole of you. As you now turn to Raphael, hands in prayer position, bowing low before him in gratitude and love for his assistance and support, now to Divine Mother, and in turn to Archangel Michael. As you receive this message from Mother, dear child, we are here for you. Feel free to return here for further assistance in clearing, in releasing, in letting go, and in up-leveling. Whatever is your need, we are here to support your unfolding. We honor and appreciate that you were willing to incarnate into life in this time of the great breakthrough. You are part of the answer, part of the reason that we know the shift from dark to light, from negative to love, from fear to love on planet Earth will be victorious, because you are part of the answer. And with that, all three bow low before you, extending you grace, gratitude, and love for your willingness to do your part. And with that, step out of the circle, out of that clearing, and walk back to the portal, pausing before you enter it to turn around and look and take in whatever way, seeing, feeling, sensing, knowing that a great shift has occurred today, that you can choose to go forward with ease and grace, to glow and flow, to bask and be and shine the divine light that you are. One last deep, easy breath, feeling all this lusciousness in, and now pass through that portal back to your heart space. Turn your attention to the outside of your auric field and imagine pouring liquid platinum to create an impervious natural shield. Now stud that shield with hundreds of little tiny mirror tiles made out of diamonds so that anyone else's energy that comes towards you is reflected back to them. Your light can shine and be seen, and there is no need to commingle with others' energies. As you slowly begin to come all the way back to now, right here, right now, with me, we say, Mother, Father, God, Source of all that is, Divine Mother, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, and all of our Wise One teams, higher selves, and ancestors who have been here today to assist in this activation to connect with the power of the Sacred Eight Infinity symbol. For this we give great gratitude, extend much love, and so it is. And so, my friends, over the next few days, it's important, as it takes some time to integrate these higher vibrational frequencies into the more dense energy that has become the matter of your physical body. So over the next 3 to 5 days, drink a lot of water with some lemon in it if you can. Stay grounded, connect with Mother Nature, and really listen to your body, letting it tell you what it needs in order to fully integrate these magnificent frequencies you've just connected with.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, as I was witnessing that on my own, and then also seeing the collective as people are going to listen and practice and walk through that, what I could feel and see a lot of shifting was the internal world, that shifting of the judger and the blame and the shame, and freeing up, creating and purifying that air and the water, the elements within the person.
Amen. Amen.
And it was just beautiful to watch, and that's it.
And you know, Michelle, what you're saying, that's the key to that. That's the answer to that question you asked earlier, you know, for those people who feel like, yeah, that's all well and good for you, but that's not how my life works. I can't do that. I can't make these changes. Yes, it starts there, right there, with letting go of the shame, the blame, the judgment. And once you free your system of all that toxic stuff that's taking so much energy to keep alive, you're going to be amazed at what is available to you. But it starts there. Yeah. It starts with that 30-day mirror exercise where when I first started that exercise, I am awesome, I just laughed the first time. I'm like, this is so stupid. But I did it because why not? I was desperate. I wanted to find things that would help me feel better, and it worked. I do think I'm awesome now, and I couldn't have said that 10 years ago. I would have felt guilty for saying that. That would have been egotistical. I didn't even understand what the ego was about back then. I thought it was a whole other thing. So I love that that's what you observed in the field during that activation.
Gorgeous. Perfect place to start for the, in September, that's that fall energy, switching, into that beautiful place of starting to get that inspiration to be able to see above and take stock of where you're at before dropping into that next cycle. And so I love the timing of when this episode is being aired. So I am so grateful that deep out to you, to your team, and to my team for helping give us a little nudge and say, hey, this would be fun.
Yeah. Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for inviting me to participate in the joyful connections that you are creating with this podcast. It's very stellar, very magnificent.
So, Beth, if somebody would like to continue to work with you, I know you've got a couple different programs, including, I think, like a monthly healing program. So can you share, just for all the listeners, if you're driving or whatever, don't worry about trying to figure it. It's all on the page, so you can go click on all of her links and find her, and I'll all of that good stuff. But Beth, can you just share a little bit about if somebody's curious, wants to work with you a little bit more, or to have some more access to some of your beautiful meditations and activations that you do? How can they, what's the next step for them?
If you go to my website, www.bethherndobler.com, on there are several tabs, that one of which is the types of sessions I have and what you can expect from each one. I would encourage you to trust what is calling to you, even if it doesn't make sense. I do a session called an energetic body blueprint scan and reprogramming, and I have had people reach out from my website and say, I am being called to do this work with you, even though I have no idea what you're talking about. I have a client she's in the 4th level of the master class, and when she first started working with me, had an individual session and then joined the monthly energy healing call, which I have provided a link for your community to join that. We've actually changed the name as of 6 weeks ago to Monthly Energy Healing Circle. So you can join the circle for $26 a month, which is a 28% discount off the current rate of $35. It's a beautiful, easy way to stay connected, to get work, to do energy work. There's a time at the end where we do a Q&A, and you can ask questions. You can have some mini energy work. It's a wonderful way that's very affordable for people to participate in the work, that whether or not you can afford the one-on-one sessions isn't the point, because we all need regularity. That's back to that original point, that we need a very dedicated, strong, daily spiritual practice in order to support ourselves to opening. And the Monthly Energy Healing Circle is a tool that we can easily, affordably access. So I've made that available for your community. And also on you can see there's a tab on my website where you can buy recordings and activations that I've done previously, including some from the circle, and I have provided that as the free gift here a month, a specific month that was a very powerful one for many folks. So you can get that free gift to experience the circle in order to see if it's for you. And then lastly, on my website is a free stuff page where there are a variety of things, many of which link to my YouTube channel, where you can experience activations, conversations, interviews, and the like that can be very illuminating for people. So those are all ways that you can connect in with me. And if you know you want to work with me and you don't want to go through all that, just email me, bherndobler@gmail.com. I'm available.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love that you're inviting just to trust and step into that flow of what is being called forward. And I really appreciate that modeling.
And I just realized I don't think I finished that. Maybe I did, but see that I get wonky from those activations too. But the woman I was referring to that is about to graduate from the 4th level of the master class recently in the past year told me, when after that first session when you said, it would be really good for you to join the Monthly Energy Healing Circle, I thought, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what this energy work is, and I think it's all a lot of hooey, but I'm going to do it. And 4 years later, she has opened and blossomed so much into her gifts, into her own intuition, finding her voice, because even when she didn't believe in the work, she knew something was calling her, and she surrendered and trusted, and here she is now. So check it out, guys. Don't judge it before you give yourself a chance to see if this kind of work is for you, because we all need support and guidance. Michelle and I both, I know you do, and I do too. We trade sessions, we buy sessions, we have people and healers that we work with because we cannot always do it on our own. And why would you choose that hard way to do it on your own?
Hit the easy button, the Staples easy button, which is, it can be a little bit of an oxymoron because it's not always, quote, easy, but there is more ease in that path. Action is still needed, and presence is still needed, and choice is still needed, and it's so beautiful. But support is such a needed thing, and I do. That's how Beth and I connected. Is even though this is what I do every day for a living, this is what Beth does. We still very much need community and support and somebody to be in that sacred witnessing role with you on your journey, because you can get lost in the weeds, and it's helpful. It's beautiful to be able to have that support. I'm so grateful for your offers and your gift and your discount offer to our beautiful community. And I encourage you guys all to take a look, hop on her website or hop onto YouTube and keep on exploring in there as well. Well, Beth, is there anything that you would like to kind of underscore, circle around that's coming through that you would like to share before we close up?
Well, what's coming through right now is one of the ways my clairaudience functions is through music. And what is coming through right now, I believe it's Journey, the band Journey, Don't Stop Believing. And I can hear it. Don't stop believing, guys, because you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Now I got it playing. And it's really funny that you say that because my horse, Diesel, who's my heart horse, is staring at me right through the window, and that's our favorite song to dance to.
I love it. Hi, Diesel.
He's perking his up. He's like, it took you ladies long enough to hear my voice.
It did. I'm sorry it took so long. We were a little zoned out there, so thank you for bringing us back. That is so beautiful. So, from the horse's mouth, don't stop believing, guys.
Absolutely. Well, Beth, thank you again so much. Deep gratitude and love to you for joining us today. And to all of you on the call, so much love and gratitude. And I honor you on your journey. And it is so grateful that you answered the call and that you are here and you are part of creating this new frequency, this new earth. And we are so honored to be on the journey with you. And I'm grateful and honored to be a part of that. Beth, thank you.
Thank you. Much, much love to everyone.
Yes. And this is your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and if you want to find out anything more about me and my services, you can check out our website at unbridledchange.org and go to check out Beth's website as well. Thank you all. We will see you next month. Bye.